Now at 8:30, we have exclusive new video of a 28-year-old man who's now in custody, charged in connection with the weekend bombings in New York City and New Jersey. Our sister station in New York, WCBS, obtained this video showing Ahmad Khan Rahami dragging a wheeled bag down the street in Chelsea before Saturday night's bomb went off.
Rahami is charged with 5 counts of attempted murder as well as 2 gun charges. We understand he is not cooperating with that investigation tonight. He is being held on $5.2 million bail, and he does remain at a hospital. And joining us now to discuss these attacks is former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis. Ed, thank you so much for coming on.
Hello, Liam. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for being here. And we know that you led the investigation after the Boston Marathon bombing. So where are things for investigators in New York right now? In these first hours, there's obviously an effort underway to get as much information as possible. So where do you think that investigation is tonight?
Well, the fact that they have the suspect in custody is a huge deal. There's a lot of concentration on questioning him. And at some point in time, he either agrees to cooperate or not. And the reports are that he's not talking. So now they have to go back and drill down into his social media presence. They have to look and execute search warrants at his home, wherever he worked. They're going to go through all of his personal papers, everything that he owns. They're going to look at photographs. They're going to look at computers, everything that he has. Then they're going to talk to all of his contacts. Anybody who's had any contact with him in the last 10 years is going to be questioned by teams of investigators. But the most important part of this particular case, I think, is going to be his travels overseas. There are reports that he's been in Pakistan and Afghanistan. They're going to check to see if he's been in the tribal areas, if he's been in any areas where they have training camps for Taliban or Al-Qaeda, and really try to figure out exactly what he did during this foreign travel.
Given that he's not cooperating, what within the law can law enforcement do to try to get him to open up a bit?
Well, they'll try all sorts of things to get him to cooperate. And some people do eventually. It might take years for him to decide to speak to us, but we can glean things from him, whether he cooperates or not. Everybody leaves a footprint as to where they were and what they were thinking and who they were speaking to and what they were doing. And this will be the subject of this intensive investigation that's still going on right now.
And all we hear from law enforcement, rightly of course, is if you see something, say something. I think most people feel as though after what we saw on 9/11, there's a sense that there might be some sort of advance warning. But what are we supposed to do about this? The guy at the Minnesota Mall just started stabbing people. This, right now, appears to only involve this isolated young man. How do we prevent this when individuals are just going to act out spontaneously this way?
Well, Paul, you've hit on the real difficulty here, because ISIS has been really effective with this strategy of activating fringe players or people with mental health problems and encouraging them to attack. And, you know, tragically, there are people that are willing to do that. And so it's one thing to try to thwart a 9/11 style attack where there was a foreign power directing teams of agents who were actually using tradecraft like spies to come in and do something. That's one type of investigation that you launch and try to guard against. This other thing, this sort of activation of fringe players, is a whole different issue. So while we prosecute the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, we also have to look locally at people who are outliers, who are having trouble like this particular young man was having, just like the way Tamerlan was. There are very similar situations here. Foreign travel, you know, disconnected young people. There are signs that can be followed.
You mentioned Tamerlan Tsarnaev. He and his brother Johar, of course, behind the marathon bombings. How similar is this to what the marathon bombers did? It seems like it's a pretty easy operation. He goes, he gets a pressure cooker, he puts some things inside, and he builds a pretty crude bomb.
Right. Well, it's simple in some ways. The motivation, the desire, the sort of suicidal tendencies of the people involved in both this attack and the one in New Jersey. But when you look at the complexity of the device, for instance, and the explosives that were used, very, very different and very sophisticated.
In this case, the cell phones, right?
The New Jersey and New York attacks involved cell phone detonators. this. That's not an easy thing to do. I've built circuits to try to imitate these things. And, you know, guys, I've also gone to bombing scenes where people have been trying to build bombs and have blown themselves up. That's what happens. People tend to blow their hands off when they try to do something like this. So when you're dealing with this type of chemical that they had, which is very unstable, and then you're adding to that a detonator that's hardwired into a cell phone, this isn't a skill that you pick up from the internet.
Okay.
Someone needs to teach you how to do that.
Is this one of the lessons of Inspire magazine, sort of, you know, build a bomb in the kitchen of your mom? I mean, has it gotten to the point where people are learning how to use a cell phone detonator? Or do you think that's too sophisticated for him?
Way too sophisticated. The simple answer to that is no. That's an easy thing. You hear there's a lot of rhetoric around Inspire magazine, and they get the formula off the internet. But people that get the formula off the internet blow themselves up.
Yeah.
This is a dangerous, dangerous business.
Ed Davis, former Boston Police Commissioner, thank you so much for your
Thank you,
so
Lee.
much.
Thank you, Paul.
So there is still so much to learn about these attacks in New York and New Jersey. Stay with WBZ, both on air and online, for the latest on the investigation.